That is the 1 millionth Porsche 911 built. It's currently very early in the morning, but you need to come around the castle and have a look at what else they've got here. So we have Speedsters, Turbos, GT3s, regular ones, 996 GT3, 993s, the Club Sport over there. Here we've got a 959 and a GT1. Look at this stuff. 1967 Targa. Brand new Targas, other GT3s, turbos, all the modern stuff down here. Look at it all. GT3 RSs, morning chaps. And right here, a 911R, which I just happen to have the keys for. So I have something very specific I want to discuss with you today. And that's the question that everyone's been asking about, which is better, a 911R or a new GT3 with a manual gearbox? So here I am in a 911R, and I'm going to drive it for a bit, and then I'm going to take it back and swap it for a new GT3 with a manual gearbox. And just tell you a bit about them, really. Because I'm not sure there will be a right or wrong answer to that question. But what I can tell you right now is that the 911R is one of my all-time favourite road cars. And that despite me having gone on record and said that I actually prefer the GT3 RS, just because it's a bit more nuts. And I have to say that just the manual gearbox in this, now it's got some temperature in it, and we've been driving it for 20-25 minutes, it's starting to feel really together and slick and smooth, and the clutch weighting's not bad at all. It's just got, the engine's got so much muscle. Here we go, let's let it go a bit. Yeah, the engine's got so much muscle, and it's got relatively short gearing, so whenever you change up, even if I change up at like 5,000, you've still got oodles in the next gear up. Yeah, it's just really flattering to drive. The gearbox especially just seems to be that you can't fluff a gear change too badly. And the engine is just so strong from such low revs, or it's got such good flexibility for a naturally aspirated. And of course, all this purity of response. So you can just, I love it, absolutely love it. The sense of balance in it. Oh, you can pick out every apex. As fast road cars go, the 911R takes an awful lot of beating. It really is the answer to all those questions about why you need a track car with all those aero addendum when all you're doing is driving on sublime B roads like this. So yeah, this feels pretty good. And the sun's coming up. It's lovely. Things I'd rather be doing right now. Not much. The brakes are so responsive, you can just whack it, stop it on its nose. And you get all those little buzzes and hunts as the engine's sort of pushing and the car's struggling for traction a bit, and just so it feels quite tearaway-ish, and it's a nice way to wake up in the morning. So while there's this immense positivity to the 911R, there's also this sort of, not softness at its heart, but the way it goes down a road feels so attuned to that road, and the way it just deals with the bumps and the absorption and the suspension. There's very little travel, but what it can do is just pull the harshness out of the road very, very nicely. So it does that particularly well, and this gear change, I mean, it's heavier. If you get into a standard 911, the new 911 with a manual gearbox, a Carrera 2 or something, the clutch is so light and the gear change so light that you can drive that car pretty much as easily as you can a PDK. And I'm not joking, it really is devastatingly easy to drive. This thing is a little bit more, it demands a little bit more of you, but not a lot. You're not talking like this is a massively effortful car to drive. You don't need a massively big left leg or anything to get it to activate. It's just it's a car that you enjoy the process of changing gear in. It's a lovely short throw, the gearing's nice and close together. And if you have sport mode engaged, it'll do all the blippy stuff for you, so here you go. Makes you feel like a hero when you're not. But let's see what it's like if I don't have all that engaged. And a few downshifts. Oh, it's nice to be able to do it yourself as well, you know. That felt alright. That feels more than alright. You know, 500 horsepower is plenty in road cars. Absolutely plenty. So there we have it with the 911R. It's a mighty bit of kit, and the gear change is absolutely central to the appeal of it. Time to go and get the GT3 and see if it's anything like as good. This makes a nice noise. It's noisier than the 911R. That's for sure, straight away. That wasn't even with sports exhaust and it was that noisy. So what else feels different? It feels a mite more positive on the road. It's also geared almost identically. Maybe a fraction shorter, but not much in it really. In the 911R, I think the gearbox blends so perfectly with the engine, with the suspension, with the way it goes down a road. In the GT3, you could swing it either way. You could have PDK or you could have manual. And I wouldn't blame you if you wanted PDK, because that gearbox is tremendous in this car. And because it's this bit harder and sharper than the R, I think there's a lot to be said maybe for having it with PDK. For me, I'd still have a GT3. If it was between a GT3, PDK or manual, I'd have it with a manual. There we go. I would. But if it was between 911R and GT3 manual, I think I'd have the R. But the important thing to remember here is these margins are absolutely tiny. That Porsche could do this car and sell it for £111,000, the GT3 is frankly spectacular. That is such good value for money. But it's all down to personal preference. There is no right and wrong answer here. Personally, I find the GT3 that bit more aggressive than the 911R. And the 911R, I just think, flows so well. But maybe it's just these roads. Maybe it's these roads that are saying the 911R is better on here than the GT3 is. Or more suited to me, at least. That's all there is to it. But how happy would you be to have your hands on either of these cars? They're just sublime driving things. So yeah, the GT3 with its towering great wing at the back, and it's just more sense of aggression to it. Even at really low speeds, we're doing 30 miles an hour, and you just get more movement from it as it's reacting to all the bumps and things than you did in the R. And the R is a firm car, but it's not aggressive in the same way that the GT3 is. And you need to listen to what this thing's like when it gets up, because the engine in this is absolutely bananas. I mean, it's so guttural low down this. Right, sport mode is off, so you can watch and criticise my gear changing. See if I can get some heel and towing done right, because that's why you buy a car like this, isn't it? Bloody noise! because it's that bit firmer, it doesn't have the same sort of traction as the 911R. It is losing traction a bit in the places where the R wasn't 30 minutes earlier. But I'm getting into a groove with it more. So initially when I came out, and it might have just been in comparison with the R, this felt a bit more aggressive, and it is a bit more aggressive. And I actually preferred the way the 911R feels, and I still think, especially when you're just pottering around, I prefer the R. It's just a bit more benign, it's just a bit more relaxed, moves with the road a bit better. But when you're going for a bit of a rip roar, this does take a heck of a lot of beating. Just throwing unnecessary gear changes in here now, because that's what it's all about in a manual, isn't it? Down, 4th, 3rd, 2nd. I haven't changed my mind about whether I'd have manual or PDK though. I'd have manual all the way. It's terrific. I wouldn't care that you lose a few tenths here and there for speed to acceleration to 60, lap times. Nah, it doesn't matter about that. I just want to have a good time. So yeah, the question of which is the better car is borderline irrelevant. They are both absolutely terrific. They are both magnified in their ability by the fact they've got a manual gearbox. Now that manual gearbox sits more easily in the 911R than it does in the GT3. The GT3, being that bit more focused, that bit more track orientated, suits PDK possibly better than it suits manual. But I'd have mine with a manual because I prefer road driving most of the time. I wouldn't do enough track driving to want to feel that I got all that aggression, if you like, and that perfection of the lap times and everything that a PDK would give you. I like the level of interactivity and the fact you have to put the effort in with a manual. And I think the 911R is probably the better means of showing off a manual gearbox than the GT3 is. And if I had to take one car away, if I could just take one of these, it would be the 911R. And for no more reason, I don't think, than it's just so iconic. It's just so iconic. And I wouldn't care, I don't think, if I saw other people, if I saw a guy in a GT3 manual, I'd just look at him and think, yeah, brilliant choice. And I'd want to shoot the breeze. I wouldn't be jealous at all. It's just nice to know that cars like this exist, that Porsche's chosen to make them still. And that's the most important thing, isn't it? That cars like this still exist. Happy days.